Hey, Steph, I'm so excited to have you here with me today, talking all things business growth and simplicity.
Girl, yes. Oh my goodness. My cup of tea, as you know. So glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know your focus for Method is all about simplicity as you scale and really focusing on those important pieces.
Yep.
Yes, you can have social if you want it, but we're not talking social media marketing. That's just not where the clients are going to come in. So that first focus for is long form content. I know you,
Yes.
you just talked about it. You alluded to the fact that the podcast has worked for you,
Yep.
that you think it's the best long form content strategy. Why do you believe it's the most effective way to grow your business? And how does it compare to other content platforms?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's first address this concept of long form versus short form. So, short form would be anything that is, let's say, under 2 minutes. So, this is going to look like your reels, your stories, videos that you might post on a TikTok, so to speak, even a YouTube short. It's that short form. And the deal with short form, why it does not really work is because when people are in a posture of short form, we're just looking for the dopamine hit. You guys know what I mean. You're numbing out after a really long, hard day. I'm going to go on to Instagram or YouTube shorts. And I'm literally looking for shorts because I don't want to give my attention span to something. I just want to numb out. And truly, we're chasing this dopamine hit. So people look at those short form pieces of content not in a posture of growing, right? Of learning, of actually engaging deeply with your content. In contrast, long form content would be a podcast episode. This is 10 minutes plus, 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes. You're holding attention. Can you just for a minute really challenge yourself to think of how we hold attention for more than 2 to 3 minutes at a time in today's day and age? It's almost impossible. And so what we have to do is get people off of the visual and get them into the audible content, which is podcasting. Now, there are two other long form options. One is blogging, which is written, and the other is YouTube, which is video again. All three are fine. Truly, though, I believe when you're getting started and you're really chasing your first six figure and multi six figure positioning in an online business, go for podcasting. It is the lowest overhead. It is the one that people don't stick with because it's not a feel good. So you're going to just quickly ride out any competition because very few people even make it past 3 episodes. And I
Mm.
think it's only 20%, give or take, that ever make it past 10 episodes. So it's like, if you put your foot in that door and you just stick with it and are consistent, you're going to end up being like a notable show in your category because people just quit. And it's because there's no feel good, there's no going viral, there's no likes and all of this other stuff. So you really do have to have that posture of like, I'm in the long game for the long run. But podcasting is the one that has the highest conversion. Why? Because we're removing the visual element. YouTube is okay. And I do YouTube. I know Gabe does too, but it is so much harder. It takes so much longer. It's about 100 times more expensive. I am not exaggerating. And for me, it has much lower conversion. So I've been on YouTube for over a year and I've sold one that I can attribute specifically to YouTube of my group coaching program from it. Podcasting, we make 7 figures from the podcast a year. And so it's like podcasting is my favorite. It removes the visual. And the reason I'm saying this is because if you're focused on a video, you're still doing visual stimulation, and visual stimulation is like, I need the next thing. I need the next thing. But when we remove the visual stimulation and we're listening to a podcast, guys, what are people doing? They're in the posture of bettering themselves so often. They're working out. They are meal prepping and listening to something. Maybe they are doing an art project with their kids and listening to a podcast. The people who listen to podcasts are people who are often in the personal development space. They are people who have discretionary income. When you look at the statistics about them, there are people who buy in order to better themselves. And so that's the other reason that we really see conversion. And the last piece why we see conversion is because they're captivated with you for 10 minutes plus, which you do not get on short form. And you really do not get with even YouTube videos or blogs.
Yeah, so true. I mean, I
Yeah.
started with YouTube, moved to podcast, love podcasts. I
Yeah.
have YouTube now, but I just don't focus there. I do feel like, too, with long form, you can have all the platforms, but really focusing and honing in on the one is going to make a bigger difference, too. And that audio, it's just so powerful because you can talk for longer than you can on a video
Yes.
on YouTube or whatnot, because there isn't that algorithm there. But there is a stigma that I do hear often is that podcasts aren't searchable. Like there is no
Mm,
SEO. That's
mm.
that's a stigma I hear. I know that you would think the opposite. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, so that would be false. Excuse me, podcasting does actually have SEO capability. And that's something that I teach my students, and Gabe can attest to this. It's not just what you call your actual podcast, for example, decluttering for moms. Well, the term decluttering is searchable in Apple Podcasts, in Spotify, in wherever people are going to listen, but so is every single one of the titles of your show. And so you can position yourself almost as if it was a Google search platform by titling your stuff with search terms and heavy hitting keywords that your people are looking for. So that same decluttering podcast may have something like clean my closet as part of a keyword title. It may have something like how to decrease clutter as a piece of a title, right? And so SEO is alive and well in the podcasting space.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. But I just like to like bust that myth,
Yeah, it's
because
good.
people are like, no, I have to go somewhere else. No, you don't. So
Yeah.
the second focus of your focus form method is actually having a targeted offer. One
Mhm.
thing I see is multiple like entrepreneurs have multiple different offers and they're kind
Yeah.
of throwing themselves throwing mud on the wall or making themselves like work so hard for a
Yeah.
bunch of different things for little return.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? Let's dive into this. Tell me a little bit more about that targeted offer and what are the key elements that really truly make an irresistible offer for the right audience?
Yeah. So I think when we're new, and maybe this you're not new when you're watching this, but when we're not really having success, I guess we could say it that way. It's often because you're confusing your audience. If I was to tell you just really blatantly what's going on, and this means your podcast is vague. You're a lifestyle brand. You're talking about meal prep and weight loss and marriage and we know that we're multi-passionate people. We love a lot of things, but the reality is until you're Oprah or Joe Rogan, like you're going to have to pick a lane and you're going to have to pick a micro corner of the internet to really go deep in. And that is going to be your ticket to massive success. And so my focus formula is like, what am I actually focused on? Well, you're focused on one long form, which we talked about. The second one is you're focused on one core offer. So I made this mistake. So I'm not calling you out. It's because I actually did this and had 12 things. I had this course and this thing and coach with me. And I had a micro offer and a mini offer and I had an ebook and I had everything. And I was still not making money. I like a few sales here and there, but the reason is because people were super confused. They're like, well, do I do that with her? Why is she doing that? Why is she over there doing that now? Like, oh, forget it. I can't, like, they can't even keep up with me. Right. So when you decide, let's say we did the Decluttering for Moms podcast. Okay, great. I know what my lane is. It's specifically for moms who have kids under 3 and whatever else, right? We're going to really, really get micro niched in. Maybe you decide that your one core offer is going to be an easy decluttering coaching call or like your declutter closet method. And you have one thing. When we only sell and speak about one thing, we remove decision fatigue from our listener, from our future buyer. And they now are, instead of choosing how you're going to solve their problem, you are telling them how I'm going to solve your problem. Hey, mama, I know your closet feels really gross when you walk in there. You hate everything in there, even though you have so many clothes with tags on it. I want to help you declutter your closet in 1 hour call with you so that you can go in and feel peace, know exactly what fits, have outfits that go together. You're going to spend 5 minutes in there getting dressed and you're going to love how you look. I'm telling you the solution. Come and book this 1 hour call with me, right? So, what this one offer does is it really helps eliminate decision fatigue and confusion. And if you don't know, so tactical thing here, if you do not know exactly what you're doing or what your offer should be, start with coaching. I teach my students start with a 1 hour call because this is something where you're almost getting paid to do market research. You're going to sit down with someone virtually 99% of the time and say, how can I help you in this area? They will then tell you their problem and you will then solve their problem in the call. And what that does is it helps you learn what they need and it helps you get clear on what your future, maybe passive offer can become. And that's great. And then last piece here is you ride this one offer, the core offer, until you hit six figures. Don't stack offers until you're there. Why? Because we don't want to work so hard to light this fire and we get the fire to just start sparking. We're making some sales, right? Like, oh, my fire's started. And now we divert all our attention to starting a new fire. We want this fire to be a literal, uncontrollable bonfire. Sales are constantly happening. This thing is like really going. Then we can go focus our attention on starting fire number two. And it's just going to work out for you in the long run and make so much more profitability for you.
I love that. And I did the same thing and it's it with your coaching too, starting with one on one. And it was great because I got to really hear what was going on in their world, the problems they were having, and I could see
Hmm.
a pattern. And it really helped me
Hmm.
to create my own framework and method so I could create other offers
Yeah,
later on that would work and scale for the masses because that's the hard part. You can't scale for the masses if you don't know what they need.
that's right.
Yeah. So, one thing I was thinking about too, as you were talking, as you said, scale with the one offer all the way to six figures. I know some might have a hesitation. Can I really make six figures with one offer?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I started with coaching right when I launched my podcast, right? And remember, I had 12 offers. Everything was a mess. I was a slave to social media. Lay all of that down, go 100% onto the podcast, and I decided I'm just going to coach, which is why this is what I teach my students now because I did everything in a way that was really stressful and it was full of striving and it stole every minute of my time. And then I just kind of like I truly burned it all down. I burned it. And I'm like, let me start over. Let me pick my fire. And so I chose coaching. And I started with $80 an hour. I did these things called clarity calls. And within, 18 months, I went from $80 to $800 an hour because the demand was crazy exponential because the podcast showed people who I was, how I helped them, and they wanted that call too. They were like, oh my gosh, like I want one of those. And so it allowed the demand to just go through the roof, and I was able to I hit over 200,000 in revenue just from one offer, which was coaching, in less than 2 years. Then because I no longer could take on any more clients, I was truly at capacity. I built the course, which was my podcasting course, to replace myself in the coaching, which is the point. And then I waited until that thing had passed 100,000 in revenue, phased out of the coaching completely. And now I have a group coaching program. That way people can still get coaching with me, but I can do it on a much wider scale. And that program is a 7-figure program. And so, can you make six figures and multiple six figures? Yes. Can you even make seven with one offer? Yeah, because that's what I do today. I have one thing that I sell and it makes 7 figures a year. And so, I actually think that's why it's so highly profitable because there's no confusion. I get to show up with everything that I am in one place. Anytime we have this epiphany, like, I need to teach my students how to run a live launch, it goes into the one offer that I have instead of like, let's make another thing and another thing. And now we have to build all these funnels around it. It's like, why are we overcomplicating business? It's one thing. And that way, when you show up with your one thing, you make it better and better and better and better. And you scale it until truly.
Yes and amen.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So we've talked about that long form content. We've talked about that targeted offer, that one offer, and doing that one offer till you hit six figures and beyond.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that third component of your for focus four method, which is
Mm,
clear messaging.
yes.
A lot of entrepreneurs, we struggle with our marketing. We struggle with figuring out what is it that we're trying to tell people that we do. How do we make
Yes.
it resonate with them? Let's talk about that.
Yes. So if you have a podcast and you have an offer and you're not growing the podcast isn't growing, the things aren't selling, I am going to bet you some crazy amount of money that it is your positioning that is off. And what is positioning? It's your messaging. And what is your messaging? It's your marketing. It's all this in I think that these words are really interchangeable. And so what does this even mean, Steph? Well, what it means is I cannot grow a profitable business based on what I think that people need. So I thought when I got started, people wanted a funnel. So I launched a course called Funnel Fusion, and I thought that people wanted whatever else crazy thing. I did a freebie academy or something. Like I just was like making stuff up, truly. And the funny thing about this is that I kept trying to build a business on what I wanted to do. I want to have funnels that convert. I want to have freebies that are make money. But what I wasn't looking at is like, what are they saying that they need? And then what have I already done? I kept minimizing what I had already done, which was I had a gifting for helping people get clear on what their business would even be. They were called those clarity calls, those initial coaching calls that I started with. And so what I realized is like I have to get out of my own way and stop using what I think is the reality and start using their verbiage. And so what I did and now what I teach my students to do, I started getting on these calls with people who listened to my podcast, who were in my Facebook group, and I just started asking questions. Hey Gabe, what are you struggling with when it comes to online business? And often they're like, I have no idea what I should do. Or I'm on social media all the time and it's not making any money. Or I'm so tired of pushy sales in the DMs. And I'm like, oh, I am so far off from the words that my person is using. So what I started doing is taking the sentences they said to me in these calls, and they were just a quick, like either a chat, like a Voxer chat. Sometimes I would get on Zooms with people for like 10 minutes and I would just take all their language and transcribe it into this huge Excel sheet. And then I just pull it and make a podcast episode about it. For example, unclear on what your business will be, 3 steps. I just took the sentence out of their mouth and started mirroring. I was mirroring it on my podcast. I was mirroring it in my email subject lines. I was just mirroring. And that is when people started saying to me, Gabe, Steph, I feel like you really know me. I binged your podcast. I listened to 20 episodes in a weekend. And I'm like, what is happening? And it's because they started to crave the fact that they felt seen. They were like, how does she know I feel this? How does she know I'm thinking this? And it's because I literally was getting in the weeds with people. And so I don't care how big you are. Today, we do more market research than I ever did when I didn't make money. I am like, I've got interns on it. We're pulling like comments from Facebook posts, and I'm like, tell me everything because I've realized that my customer, and I didn't come up with this, some other genius did, but it's my customer is my copywriter. My customer is my content plan. And so that's going to be, I hope, your ticket straight to the bank.
My customer is my content plan. Okay, that is a golden nugget. I love it. Well, and also like when you did research in the beginning, market research in the beginning, my guess is your market research, what they're saying has changed now
Oh,
that you're
yeah.
doing it now. So you got
Yep.
to keep up with it.
That's right. And like political climates change. People's businesses change. The platforms that they're choosing change. Like I used to be able to talk about closing deals in the DMs, whereas today I might need to talk about like, hey, let's not chase the next TikTok. Like conversations change because people's behavior changes. And so that's why we can't just do market research once and call it one and done. We've got to constantly, and I teach my students to do this at least every 6 months if you want an actual timeline.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And
Yeah.
you worked directly with me on this
Yes.
back when I was working on trying to figure out my podcast and all the things, and it made a huge difference. And I still love my coffee chats with people, so I can get in their head and they can say, "Wow, I can't believe you're in my head.
Yeah,
How do you know that about me?" Right?
exactly.
That's the whole point. So now moving from that. What we're trying to do is actually create a business with sales. And I know a lot of people want to get more leads by doing less. This is the fourth piece of your four focus method.
Yeah.
So, can you break down what that looks like and how we can create a practice that really points people back to our main content so that we can have we can scale without having to just like burn out?
Yeah. So when we think of scaling, I think we often think of more. We think
Mhm.
of, I need to show up in more places and I need to add all the long form channels. And like there is a time and place where all of that makes sense. Obviously, I've been in this particular business I'm running today for 7 years. And now we are on all the platforms and we do run ad spend and things like there are things to scaling that do mean more. But when we're talking about really like solidifying a multi six figure business, I'm really talking about like I'm going to 0 to 100K. I'm going from 100K to 200K. annually, like I'm looking at that time right now for you. I believe that we have to get more leads by doing less. And so, what this means, if I know that my podcast is the place that I capture a new lead and I say, hi, Gabe, I want you to come and join my email list because I'm going to send you a love note every Friday with my latest episodes and some tips for making your podcast grow better and all of this stuff. Gabe's going to come and join the email list. And whether I have a freebie or I don't even need a freebie, quite frankly, I can just tell her to come sign up for the email list, right? And I also know for a fact that the podcast is where my sales happen because when people come and purchase from me, they tell me where they found me or what made them choose to purchase. And over 90% of people say the podcast. Wow, brain explosion. What do I need to do? Every effort, every post, every Pinterest pin, every blog, everything I ever do on the internet, ever, forever, ever, amen, points where? That podcast. And so it doesn't mean you have to do more. It means you just have to point more. I'm pointing back to this episode. So, for example, someone on my team makes an audio clip of the episode, and that's what gets posted to social today. I don't go live anymore or make a bunch of content. I don't even have posts. It's a business card. You guys can go look at my Instagram to see what I'm talking about. It's at Stefanie Gass, but it's literally just a business card. The same 9 pictures are there all year long. And you'll see an audio clip come up once or twice a week. If you do see a video of me, it's probably an ad, not me, because I don't even go on Instagram anymore. And it's driving where? To my podcast. So that's happening. We do have Pinterest pins that drive directly back to the podcast. They don't even go to a blog half the time. They go straight to the podcast. And so I want you to think about, where am I already showing up? Because you're probably doing a few things that I've mentioned today, and ask yourself, how can this just point back to my one long form focus method and really double down on that? I think if you can just, if people, here's the deal, like if people know that the only place they get you is right here, they're all going to go there. The problem is what I see my students doing. They're like, oh, but I'm also available on Instagram stories. I'm also available over here in this place. Like, there has got to be a barrier to entry to you. And where do you actually show up? I hope it's just your podcast and your program or your coaching. That's the only place people get me. So they could follow me on Instagram, but very quickly they're going to be like, I don't get anything from her over here. Like, I literally she just keeps telling me to go to the podcast. I guess I'll go to the podcast. So does that make sense? I don't know if you have a follow up to that, Gabe.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
What I love is that you're being so directed, and you're also still choosing the few places that you are going to go to point them back to your podcast. So you're not trying to spread yourself thin. Yes, you're in more places now because you have a team to help you, but
Yes.
in the early stages, we don't have to be everywhere. You just
Mhm.
need to be in those right places to point back.
That's right.
Cool. I love this. This focus four method really just breaks it down to be so simple, to make it so that you can build a business while you have a family. So you can build a business while you're doing full time work, even if that's where you are at right now. And so really hone in on this focus four method. But as we wrap up, I'd love to hear, for those who are feeling stretched thin in what they're doing in the content creation world, what encouragement would you give them about growing their business in a way that honors their faith and family?
Yeah. Well, first is, have you had a business meeting with God? And if
Mm.
you haven't, let's get that done. And I know this might seem cliche or like a no brainer, but when you really stop and you pause and you ask yourself, have I really invited God into every nook and cranny in my business, my overall business strategy, but also my business day? So often we don't. We just forget, we compartmentalize. We go, well, I met with God this morning and I prayed for my aunt and I prayed for my kids, but like, did you pray for your business? Did you ask the Holy Spirit to make decisions for you today? So that's the first thing. And I'm talking like once a quarter, I'm sitting down and I am having a full out business meeting with God. We're talking about the finances and like all the pieces. And then every morning, I try to remember to pray over my business decisions, my tasks, my time blocking. Lord, what do I need to accomplish? Give me heaven's timeline in my work. And the other piece I constantly pray for, this is a new one, but I ask God to redeem my time, because I think so often we feel like I can't really be present with my kids at the breakfast table today because I have 4 emails I need to address. Listen, when you really focus on prioritizing the gifts that God has given you, like your children, like your marriage, like a friend who calls and needs help in her spiritual walk that happened to me recently. And I was like, I have so much work to do this week. I just went, you know what? Lord, please redeem my time in my work. And I allowed myself to surrender the to dos to Him for a minute, and I'm farther along in my work this week with less hours, and somehow it doesn't make sense. But that's who God is. And so we have to bring Him into the details. Please do not minimize that. The second piece, tangibly and tactically, that I'll give you is I want you to write down everything you do. Basically, for one full week, you kind of audit your schedule, audit your to dos, audit the projects you're working on, the events you're showing up to. And then I want you to circle the ones that actually generate leads or income for you. And then you're going to cross everything else off. And I want to give you 100% permission to stop showing up and doing the things in the places that aren't even making a difference for you. And instead, double down and focus your efforts on the one that is working. Again, back to the fire analogy, let's build a bonfire of uncontrollable flames before we go build thing two. And I was super guilty of this, but I can tell you that when I am 100% laser focused on one thing at a time, I blow that thing up. And now it's making money on autopilot without me. And now I have time, energy, effort, and finances to build thing two.
So true. And when I bring God into it, if I forget to pray, I have a hectic day.
Oh, yeah.
When I bring God into it, no matter how busy the day is, I have peace. Isn't that interesting, right?
Yep, sure is.
Awesome. Steph, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming, bringing your wisdom, bringing the fire. So appreciate you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.